There is a version of betrayal that arrives loudly. You hear it coming. The raised voices, the slammed doors, the argument that has been building for months like weather you could feel in your knees. That kind of betrayal, as painful as it is, gives you something to hold on to. It has shape. It has sound. You can point to the moment it began. And then there is the other kind. The kind that happens while you are unconscious. While someone is cutting into your chest. While the people in green scrubs are doing the work of keeping you alive, and the anesthesia has taken everything from you, your awareness, your defenses, your ability to simply be present in your own life. That kind of betrayal doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives in the silence you couldn't fill. It arrives in the minutes you weren't watching. I have spent a long time thinking about what it means to be vulnerable. Most men my age were raised to treat vulnerability as a temporary condition. Something to be corrected, something to push through, something to never let the wrong person see. I thought I understood that. I did not understand until a Tuesday morning in February that the wrong person had already seen everything. My name is Gerald Raymond Caulfield. I was 54 years old, and the morning a surgeon opened my sternum, my wife of 22 years opened something else entirely. I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, the second of 3 sons born to Wallace and June Caulfield. My father worked 31 years at a machine tool manufacturer on Auburn Street. He wore the same brand of work boot for 3 decades. He was not a complicated man, but he was a reliable one, and in our house those two things were considered the same. I became a civil engineer, spent the first decade of my career working for a municipal firm in Peoria, then moved to Indianapolis in 1994 when a private infrastructure company offered me a position I'd have been a fool to decline. By the time I was in my early 40s, I was managing project portfolios that touched water treatment facilities, highway interchange designs, bridge rehabilitation contracts. It was not glamorous work. It was load-bearing work, the kind that keeps things from falling down. I drove a 2008 Ford F-250, dark blue, that I'd owned since it was new, kept it clean. I changed the oil myself every 5,000 miles in the driveway of our house on Briarwood Court, a 4-bedroom colonial we'd bought in 2001 when our daughter Megan was still in elementary school. I coached her soccer team for 4 seasons. I built the deck off the back of the house over 2 weekends in October of 2006. Just me and a DeWalt drill and a set of plans I drafted myself on graph paper. I am telling you these things not to impress you. I'm telling you because you need to understand what kind of man I was, what kind of man I had always been. The kind who shows up. The kind who finishes what he starts. The kind who does not, under any circumstances, leave things undone. My father told me once, when I was maybe 12 years old, standing in the driveway watching him change a tire in the rain rather than wait for conditions to improve. Gerald, the work doesn't care how you feel about doing it. I carried that. I carried it into my marriage, into my career, into the way I maintained the gutters and filed the taxes and sat with my mother through 3 weeks of hospice care in 2019 while my brothers found reasons to be elsewhere. I carried it because I genuinely believed, that the accumulated weight of showing up eventually meant something. I was not wrong about that. I was wrong about who was watching. The heart issue had been there for longer than I knew. That's the thing about a partially blocked coronary artery. It does its damage quietly over years in the spaces between your awareness. I'd had some shortness of breath in the fall. Attributed it to stress, to age, to the fact that I was carrying an extra 22 pounds I hadn't managed to put down since my 50s arrived. My general practitioner, Dr. Anand Mehta, sent me for a stress test in November. The stress test sent me to a cardiologist. The cardiologist, a precise and unhurried man named Dr. Stephen Forrest, sat across from me on December 9th in an office on the 4th floor of St. Vincent Heart Center and told me, using language that was careful and exact, that I had a significant blockage in my left anterior descending artery and that I would need bypass surgery. Not might need, would need. He scheduled it for February 11th, a Tuesday. My wife, Diane Caulfield, née Hartwell, had been with me for that appointment. She sat in the chair beside me and held my hand while Dr. Forrest explained the procedure, the recovery timeline, the risks. She asked questions. She took notes on her phone. She cried briefly in the elevator on the way down, and I held her, and I told her it was going to be fine, and I believed that. I had every reason to believe that The weeks between December 9th and February 11th were quiet ones. We told Megan, who was 26 by then and living in Cincinnati. She offered to come home for the surgery, and I told her not to disrupt her work for a procedure that Dr. Forrest had called routine given your overall health profile. I told her I'd call her the moment I was out. She made me promise. Promised. I need you to understand something about those weeks. Diane was attentive. She cooked more than she usually did. She came to bed earlier. She sat with me in the evenings in a way that felt, in retrospect, like someone memorizing a room before leaving it. I didn't read it that way at the time. I read it as love. I read it as the particular tenderness that proximity to mortality tends to produce in people. I was being read to, not the other way around. The morning of February 11th, we woke at 4:30 a.m. The sky outside our bedroom window was the color of a bruise. Deep purple at the edges, black at the center. It was 12 degrees outside. I remember the temperature because I checked it the night before out of old habit, the habit of a man who always wants to know what he's walking into. Diane made coffee. I couldn't have nothing by mouth after midnight, but she made it anyway. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and wrapped both hands around her mug and looked at me in a way I will spend a long time trying to correctly name. We drove to St. Vincent together. She parked the car, her 2019 Acura MDX, in the parking structure on Senate Avenue. We walked in together. She sat with me through the intake process, the vitals, the foreplacement. A nurse named Cora, who had a small silver cross at her collarbone and the particular efficiency of someone who had done this 10,000 times, walked me through what would happen. Diane held my hand again. At 7:15 in the morning, an orderly came to take me back. I kissed Diane. I told her I'd see her on the other side. She said, "I know you will." I did not know at 7:15 in the morning on February 11th that at 8:03 a.m., while I was on the table, while my sternum had been opened, while Dr. Forrest and his team were doing the work, Diane was on her phone. She was not calling Megan to give an update. She was not texting a friend to ask for prayers. At 8:03 a.m., Diane Lynn Caulfield logged into our joint checking account, the account where my direct deposit landed every 2 weeks, the account from which our mortgage, our utilities, our car insurance, our property taxes had been paid for 19 years, and she initiated a wire transfer. $41,200. Every dollar that was in it. To an account I had never seen before, at a bank I did not share with her, in a name that was not mine. The surgery took 4 hours and 17 minutes. I remember almost nothing of waking up, just light and pressure in my chest, and a disembodied sense of having been reassembled. Cora was there. She told me it had gone well. She told me Dr. Forrest would be in shortly. Diane was not in the room. The nurse said she'd stepped out. It was nearly noon. She came back at 12:40 p.m. I know the time because the clock on the wall of the recovery room was directly in my sightline, and I had been watching it without fully understanding why. She looked composed. She'd touched up her lipstick. I noticed because Diane did not, as a general habit, touch up her lipstick in hospital waiting rooms. She sat in the chair beside the bed and put her hand on my forearm. Not my hand, my forearm, and told me the surgery had gone beautifully and that she was so relieved. I said, "Where'd you go?" She said she'd needed air. That waiting rooms made her claustrophobic. That she'd walked down to the cafeteria, lost track of time. I nodded. My chest felt like a closed fist. The morphine was doing what morphine does, blunting everything to a manageable distance. And I let the conversation go where she steered it, which was toward my recovery, toward the instructions Dr. Forrest had given, toward whether I wanted her to call Megan. I said I'd call Megan myself. I did not say what I was thinking. Not then. Not that afternoon. Not during the 3 days I remained in the hospital, during which Diane visited twice and brought magazines I didn't read and a crossword puzzle book she set on the bedside table as if filling a role she'd rehearsed. I am a man who was trained not to speak before he is certain. My father again. Don't open your mouth to fill silence. Open it when you have something to say that needs saying. I was not yet certain, but I was paying attention, and I was thinking very clearly, clearer perhaps than I had in years, about a particular phone call I needed to make the moment I was home. I did not confront Diane. I did not ask about the account. I said very little that wasn't necessary, and I watched and I cataloged and I thought about a man named Douglas Hartley. Before we go further, if you've ever sat in a hospital bed and felt something shift that you couldn't yet name, or if someone in your life has ever confused your patience for ignorance, I want you to know, you are not alone in this room. There are thousands of people watching this right now who understand exactly where Gerald is sitting. If this story is landing for you, take a second and hit that like button. It helps more people find their way here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We tell these stories because they deserve to be told. Drop a comment and let me know, where are you watching from tonight? And have you ever had a moment where you knew something was wrong, but you waited before you moved? Stay with me, because Gerald was about to move. I came home on Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. I mention that not for irony, though the irony is not lost on me. I mention it because Diane had put flowers on the kitchen counter, a small bunch of yellow tulips in a glass vase, and made a dinner she knew I liked. Roasted chicken, fingerling potatoes, a salad with the Dijon vinaigrette I'd been eating since we were first married. She'd lit candles. The table was set with the good plates. I sat down, ate. I told her it was good. She talked about a renovation her friend Carol Spence had done to her guest bathroom. She talked about a book club she'd been asked to join. She talked about spring, and whether we should finally replace the guttering on the north side of the house, and whether Megan might come home for Easter. I listened to all of it. There is a particular skill, and I want to be honest and call it a skill because it required effort, in sitting across a table from someone who has done what I believe Diane had done and simply listening. Not performing normalcy, actually entering it, eating the chicken, commenting on the potatoes, asking the appropriate follow-up question about Carol Spence's bathroom tile. I had learned, over the course of a 31-year engineering career, that the quality of the information you receive is directly proportional to how little alarm you project. Anxious people get anxious answers. Calm people get real ones. I was calm. On Saturday morning, while Diane was at the gym, she went every Saturday at 9, a habit I had never disrupted and did not disrupt now. I sat down at the desk in my home office, opened my laptop, and logged into our joint checking account for the first time since before the surgery. The balance was $214, not $41,000, $214. $214. I looked at it for a long time, long enough that the screensaver activated and I had to move the mouse to bring it back. Then I looked at it some more. The wire transfer had gone out at 8:03 a.m. on February 11th. The receiving account was listed only by routing number and a partial account identifier. The memo field, which Diane had apparently filled in herself, said, "Moving expenses. Moving expenses." I closed the laptop. I sat back in my chair. Outside the window, the February morning was white and flat. Overcast sky, bare trees, the Henderson's dog moving across the yard next door with its nose to the ground. I thought about Douglas Hartley. Douglas Hartley was not a name I had learned recently. I had known it for 7 months. I had learned it the previous July, on a Thursday evening, when I came home unexpectedly early from a project site in Terre Haute. A bridge rehabilitation that had been running ahead of schedule, and found a text message on the kitchen counter. Not on a phone. Printed. On a piece of paper. As if Diane had printed it to show someone and forgotten to put it away. The message was brief. It was warm in a way that was not ambiguous. I had not confronted her about it in July. I had taken a photograph of it with my phone, put the paper back exactly where I found it, gone upstairs, changed out of my work clothes, and come back down to make dinner. I had called Douglas Hartley's name into a Google search that night after Diane was asleep. He was 51. He lived in Carmel, Indiana, 12 miles from Briarwood Court. He worked in commercial real estate. His LinkedIn profile showed a man who looked exactly the way you would expect him to look. I had made a phone call the following morning. Not to a divorce attorney, not yet. To a man named Philip Okafor. Philip Okafor was not a man most people in my life knew about. He was a forensic accountant who operated a small firm on the north side of Indianapolis. I had been referred to him in 2018 by a colleague who'd gone through a complicated business dissolution, and I had filed his number away the way I filed everything, carefully in a place I could find it when I needed it. I called Philip in July. I told him I needed a full picture of our marital finances. Not aggressive, not adversarial, just complete. He spent 6 weeks building it. What he found was methodical, small, patient, the kind of financial behavior that only reveals itself when someone maps it across years rather than months. Over the previous 3.5 years, Diane had been diverting modest sums, never more than $400 at a time, always from categories that would read as ordinary household expenditure, into an account that was not our joint account and was not, as far as I could determine, any account I'd ever been shown. The cumulative total, as of Philip's report dated September 4th, was just under $19,000. That was in September. The wire transfer on February 11th had been for $41,200, which meant in the months between September and February, something had changed in the timeline. I called Philip Okafor from my home office on that Saturday morning, February 15th, while the Henderson's dog completed its circuit of the yard. He picked up on the second ring. I said, "Phil, it's Gerald Caulfield. I think she moved the date up." He said, "How much?" I told him. There was a pause. Then, "Gerald, where are you right now?" I said, "Home." He said, "Stay there. I'll call you back in an hour. I need to tell you about the account Philip didn't know about." In the interest of being completely accurate, I should say, he knew it existed. I had told him in July in our first meeting, sitting across from him in his office on Keystone Avenue, a spare, organized room, framed actuarial certificates on one wall, a single photograph of what I assumed was his family on the credenza. I had told him then that I maintained a business operating account, sole proprietorship, connected to a limited liability company I had established in 2017. The LLC was called RWC Infrastructure Consulting LLC. The initials were my father's, Raymond Wallace Caulfield. I had set it up, on the advice of a tax attorney named Karen Lau, to handle consulting work I'd been doing outside my primary employer. Bridge assessments, structural reviews for small municipal clients, the kind of specialized work that a man with my credentials can do on evenings and weekends, and that, over the years, had produced a not insignificant secondary income stream. The account had been accumulating since 2017. By February of the following year, when Diane made her move, the RWC Infrastructure Consulting operating account held $312,000. Diane did not know about this account. I want to be careful here, because I am not a man who kept financial secrets as a matter of habit or as a form of control. I had established the LLC on legitimate professional and tax advice. The income was reported. The taxes were paid. The existence of the LLC was not hidden from the IRS, from my employer's conflict of interest disclosure requirements, or from any legal authority with a legitimate interest in knowing. It was not hidden from Diane because I was planning to leave her. It was not hidden from Diane because I did not trust her. It was simply, and I want to sit with this word for a moment, separate. Some men have a workshop. Some men have a fishing cabin. I had an LLC and a business account and 5 years of Saturday morning consulting work that was entirely mine in a way that felt important to me without my ever fully understanding why. I understood why now. Philip called back, as promised, at 10:47 a.m. He had made 3 calls in that hour. The first to a contact at the financial institution holding our joint account, who confirmed the wire transfer details. The second to Karen Lau. The third to a family law attorney named Richard Benham, whom Philip described as the right person for what you're about to do. I had an appointment with Richard Benham the following Monday, February 17th, at 2 in the afternoon. His office was on the 22nd floor of a building on North Illinois Street. I took the elevator up alone. The receptionist, a young man with wire-framed glasses, offered me coffee and I accepted it. I sat in a chair that looked out over the city. The gray February skyline, the interstate threading south, the flat white distance of the Indiana winter. Richard Benham came out to meet me himself. He was in his early 60s, silver-haired, wearing a dark suit and a tie the color of old mahogany. He shook my hand with both of his. He had the manner of a man who had walked many people through the worst days of their lives and had learned to do it without making the day feel smaller than it was. We sat. I put Philip's full report on the table between us. I walked him through it. He read carefully. He asked precise questions. He did not editorialize. When I finished, he set the report down and looked at me. He said, "Gerald, I need to ask you something directly." I said, "Go ahead." He said, "Is there any version of this marriage you want to save?" I thought about the yellow tulips, about the Valentine's dinner, about the way she'd put her hand on my forearm instead of my hand. I said, "No." He said, "All right, then here's what I want you to understand." He talked for 20 minutes about Indiana marital law, about the legal treatment of dissipated marital assets, which is what the wire transfer was, under statute. If it could be demonstrated that the funds were transferred in anticipation of divorce proceedings without the other spouse's knowledge or consent, about the RWC infrastructure account, which, he confirmed, was legally established and properly maintained, and which met the criteria, based on its structure, its history, and the manner of its establishment, to be treated as separate property rather than marital property in most circumstances, particularly given its origin predated the period of demonstrated financial betrayal. Phillips' report documented. He said, "She took $41,000. I said, "Yes." He said, "She left a separate, legitimately structured account untouched, one she apparently did not know existed." I said, "Yes." He looked at me with something that wasn't quite admiration. It was more like recognition, the look one careful man gives another. He said, "Then she has left you in a considerably stronger position than she intended to." I said, "I know." He said, "Do you want to begin?" I said, "Yes." The papers were served on March 3rd, a Monday. The process server, a compact, efficient man named Terry who wore a brown jacket and carried a canvas bag, arrived at our house on Briarwood Court at 10:15 in the morning. Diane had not yet left for wherever it was she'd begun going on Monday mornings. I was not in the house when it happened. I had gone to the office for the first time since my surgery, easing back in at reduced hours, and I had been in a project review meeting on the 3rd floor when my phone showed a text from Terry that said simply, "Done." 10:17 a.m. I did not hear from Diane that day. At 6:43 in the evening, I was in a temporary apartment I had taken on a month-to-month lease in Broad Ripple. A clean, spare, one-bedroom on the 2nd floor of a building that overlooked a canal, trees bare, water gray and still. I had moved my essential items out of Briarwood Court on the previous Saturday while Diane was at her gym, with the help of my colleague and friend Martin Ogilvy, who had shown up at 7 in the morning with his truck and no questions and helped me carry boxes for 4 hours and then sat with me on the floor of the empty apartment and eaten the sandwiches we'd picked up from a deli on College Avenue. Martin was the Clinton of my story. He didn't need to be asked. He simply arrived. At 6:43 p.m., Diane called. I answered. She said, and I'm going to give you her exact words because I wrote them down that night and I want to be accurate. She said, "Gerald, what is this?" "What is this?" Not a question. A statement she hadn't finished processing. I said, "It's a petition for dissolution of marriage." She said, "You can't, Gerald, we need to talk about this." I said, "Diane, you hired a moving company." A pause. I said, "The memo field on a wire transfer is a legal record." Another pause. Longer. She said, "That money was for both of us. I was protecting us." I said, "You did it while I was in surgery." Nothing. I said, "You wired $41,200 out of our joint account at 8:03 in the morning on February 11th. Dr. Forrest opened my chest at 7:45. What she said next was not something I will repeat here. I don't say that because it was vicious, though it was. I say it because it doesn't belong in this story. What she said belonged entirely to her panic, to the specific unraveling that comes when someone who has been quietly deceiving you for years suddenly discovers that you were quietly paying attention. I said, "My attorney's name is Richard Benham. Please have your attorney contact his office." I said, "I hope you find what you're looking for, Diane." I ended the call. I sat in the chair by the canal window for a long time. The water was dark. A single lamp on the path below cast a narrow amber reflection on the surface that stretched and wavered every time the wind moved. Her attorney contacted Richard Benham's office the following morning. It was during the discovery phase, 6 weeks later, on a Thursday afternoon, that Diane's attorney first learned about RWC Infrastructure Consulting, LLC. Richard told me about the call afterward. He said there had been a fairly extended silence on the other end of the line when he provided the account documentation. He said, in his measured way, "I believe the phrase considerably stronger position is beginning to make more sense to them. The $41,200 was treated as dissipated marital assets and factored into the settlement accordingly. The RWC account, per Richard's argument and a ruling from the judge assigned to our case, a deliberate woman named the Honorable Patricia Waverly, was classified as separate property. It left the marriage with me. Diane and Douglas Hartley moved into a rental in Carmel in April. The divorce was finalized on June 19th, a Thursday. It had taken 4 months and 2 weeks from service of papers to the judge's signature. Richard Benham called me at 3:30 in the afternoon to confirm. I was sitting in my truck in the parking lot of a hardware store on 86th Street. I had gone to buy a new drill bit set, the kind of errand that is both entirely mundane and, on that particular Thursday, felt like the most grounding thing I could think to do. I thanked him. He said it had been a privilege to work for someone who'd done his preparation properly. I sat in the truck for a while after that. I thought about my father, about that driveway in Rockford and the flat tire and the rain, about the way he'd crouched down in his work pants and handled it without ceremony, without complaint, without any apparent expectation that the rain would stop for him. I thought about what he used to say whenever I was tempted to rush something I hadn't thought through yet. He would look at me. He had very clear, gray eyes, my father, the kind that didn't miss much. And he would say, "Gerald, the work doesn't care how you feel about doing it, but it remembers how you did it." I believe that. I believe that a life built with attention, with the particular daily attention of a man who checks the oil and fills the gutters and sits through 3 weeks of hospice and pays his taxes on a schedule, leaves evidence. A record. A body of work that no single act of betrayal can erase, because it is too long and too consistent and too fundamentally itself. Diane had been watching me for 22 years and drawing the wrong conclusion. She had seen a man who was reliable and concluded he was predictable. She had seen a man who was quiet and concluded he was unaware. She had seen a man who kept his head down and concluded there was nothing underneath it. She was wrong on all 3 counts. Martin Ogilvy came over that evening with a 6-pack of something cold, and we sat on my small balcony above the canal and watched the light go off the water. He didn't make a speech. He didn't offer an analysis of what I'd been through. He opened a bottle and handed it to me and said, "You good?" I said, "Yeah, I think I actually am." And I meant it. Not as performance. Not as the kind of thing a man says because he's supposed to. I meant it the way you mean something when you've carried it to the other side and set it down and looked back at the distance. I exhaled. The canal was very still. Somewhere down the path, a dog was barking. Not with alarm, just with the ordinary energy of a living thing moving through the world. The sky had gone from gray to the particular blue that comes just after the sun finishes setting, before the dark fully arrives. I held the bottle. I didn't say anything else for a long time. Neither did Martin. There was nothing left that needed saying. If you sat with Gerald's story tonight, if something in it landed in a place you recognize, I'm grateful you were here. Hit the like button if this story stayed with you. Subscribe if you want to be here for the next one. And leave a comment. Tell me what hit hardest, or share something of your own. This community is full of people who understand what it means to keep showing up quietly. Dad's raw revenge. Real stories. Quiet dignity.
Permanent conséquence.
The most powerful thing a careful man can do is exactly what he's already been doing, and wait for the moment it matters.